Magnus Carlsen 1A4. This is the move he busted out versus the Indian Tiger Arjun Erigaisi in one of the greatest Title Tuesday games of all time on November 21st, 2023. And this game might go down as the game of the year, as in this game, Magnus, he sacks the rook, he sacks the bishop, and yes, he sacks the rook, all in an attempt to eviscerate his 2800 Super GM Indian opponent Arjun, the Indian Tiger. Did it work out in this game, though? Let's find out. All right, in the game, Magnus here playing as white. Yes, he opens 1A4, one of the most disrespectful openings you can possibly play, and he's doing it at the very highest levels. If he wins this game, I am going to lose my you-know-what. All right, Arjun, in response, we have knight f6, and from here, both sides play the copycat variation. We have knight f3, G6, G3, bishop G7, bishop G2, castles, and finally here, Arjun, he breaks the symmetry. He does not go A5. Oh no, he goes C5, a very strong idea, gaining control of D4 into space in the center of the board. And here, the move A4 simply does not make any sense at all. How on earth is Magnus going to make this move right here actually work in this game? I mean, if he goes C4, for example, then B4 is super weak. It's a gaping hole on the queen side. Therefore, Magnus has got to find some way to make A4 not look absolutely ridiculous in this game. And he has many ideas. I guess you can go C4, you can go D3 or D4 or many ideas, but in the game, Magnus here, he goes for the move knight C3. Now, this is a very strange move. The idea being the knight on C3, it blocks the C2 pawn. At some point, you usually want to go C3 or C4, but this knight, it blocks the pawn. Magnus making weird move after weird move after weird move. Arjun, knight C6, very logical. And Magnus, he's the first one to fight back in the center, and he plays the move here, D4. Opening the game, here we go. All right, Arjun takes on D4. We have C takes D4, knight takes D4, and then the very strong move D5. And in this position, it's almost like a reversed Fianchetto-Grunfeld opening where black has a pretty solid edge so far in the opening. So Magnus here, how do you want to continue? Well, Arjun's big threat here is the move E5. For example, if you waste the move with white, let's say you go, I don't know, king to H1, then E5 does come, and black is doing outstanding here. So therefore, Magnus, he's got to find some response to the move E5, which is coming next if white does not stop it. So Magnus here, what does he do? He plays the move knight B3, retreating and pressuring D5 a little bit with that knight and the queen on D1. All right, Arjun, he goes D4 anyway, gaining space, driving back this piece, but in the process, opening up the scope of this bishop, and this is where things get very tactical. Magnus here, he has the option, for example, of trading on C6, removing the defender of D4, and from there, things get absolutely insane, with both sides trading pieces, trading queens, and so on. Everything's hanging, and it's very strange from there. Now, instead, in the game, knight to E4 was chosen, a more natural idea, a little bit more maintaining the tension, kind of a typical Magnus style move, maintaining as much tension as possible in every possible position. All right, from here, black, the move is knight to D5. I mean, he could trade on E4, but that is also too simple. This guy loves a complicated game. It's why we love Arjun on this channel. I mean, all the Indian players, Arjun, Gukesh, and my personal favorite, Pragnanda. Comment a P down below if Pragnanda is your favorite Indian superstar or favorite player in general, like he is mine. But anyways, from here, knight D5 is the move. And now Magnus makes a move that I just lose my you-know-what. He plays the move A5. Magnus here somehow finding a way to make the move A4 on move 1 actually look good, as now the pawn, it gains space here, clamps down on B6, and it actually looks like a decent move in general. How does he always find a way to make moves like literally one A4 work out in the game, eventually finding A5? I just don't know how he does it, but Magnus, this guy is a freaking alien from a new dimension. I don't know what he is. All right, black here, bishop f5, a more logical idea, one I can actually understand with my 2000 ELO brain. Black here, bringing out one more piece, pressuring E4 and so on. Natural enough to me. But Magnus here, knight E to C5. Again, how does he do it? I mean, finding the space left behind, the bishop not controlling B7 anymore, the knight getting off E4, jumping in, pressuring B7, and the pawn on the A5 square, clamping down on B6, dissuading black from going B6 here. Magnus finding the most perfect possible way to synergize every single piece in every possible position. All right, Arjun, it's actually a very critical moment in the game. What do you want to do here as black in this bona fide game of the year? Well, the computer here loves the idea of B6 anyways, pushing back this knight off the c5 square. And yes, your pawn might be a little bit weak on b6 if white trades there, but overall, that's kind of what you have to do as black here, and you got to bite the bullet somehow, some way. Now, instead, Arjun here, as usual, he's not a passive defender. He's more of an active, aggressive counterattacker, and he finds a more aggressive counterattacking idea, and he plays the move knight c to b4. Okay, what is the threat? It's sort of a Shobava London-style idea. Black here pressuring c2 with the knight and the bishop, threatening to win the pawn, hit the rook, and so on, especially with that knight on c2. But now the problem with this move here is he chose the wrong knight. If you go, for example, knight d to c b4, knight d b4, sorry, it works out. But here, knight c b4, it turns out, for very complex reasons, this is not the way forward. The knight on d5 is going to be vulnerable at some point, and white here has a very simple way to get a massive edge in this game, despite opening literally 1a4. From here, Magnus, as usual, he finds the idea. He takes on d4, knight takes d4, ignoring the attack on c2 and instead counterattacking on the bishop on the f5 square. From here, things get just ridiculously complicated. For example, if black takes on c2, that would be a mistake. White takes on f5 and so on, and from there, threatens d5 and gets a massive game-winning advantage. So black here obviously cannot do that. Arjun, he's not going to fall for it. Oh no, instead Arjun, the Indian Tiger, he plays the move bishop takes d4, giving up his precious dark squared bishop. Literally, I mean, Golem here would not even give up this bishop here from Lord of the Rings. His precious, that bishop is so important. It defends all of these critical dark squares. And from here, Magnus, what does he do? Well, he takes the precious bishop. Queen takes d4, upsetting Golem in this game. And from here, black takes on c2, hits the queen and the rook. Obviously, Magnus here giving up the rook in this game, but in doing so, gains the knight on d5. Queen takes d5 is the move, sacking the rook. Black here takes on a1, knight takes a1, and Arjun here is up material. Yes, Chess YouTube, this was a clean rook sack, a clean exchange sack, giving up the rook. So what does Magnus get in return for that rook? Well, let's see what happens. From here, Magnus, he finds, as usual, the most complicated idea possible with the most possibilities, the most tactics, and so on. He does not take on d8. He does not take on, say, b7. Oh no, instead, the move here is bishop to h6 with the double attack on the rook and the knight. The rook hanging, the knight hanging, the queen under attack, b7 under attack. Magnus with simply all of these threats in this game. I mean, what is Arjun going to do right here in this position? I mean, this is like 3+1 blitz. You only have about 3 minutes to find literally every move in the game. How's he going to do this? Well, he starts taking on d5. Queen takes d5 is the idea. Magnus takes back on d5. Bishop takes, obviously. You must regain the queen and so on. And black here, again, the knight's hanging. The rook is hanging. b7's hanging. What do you do here? What's the response? The computer somehow, this is absurd, it likes the idea of b6, attacking the knight, but giving up this rook as well. And I guess the idea is, obviously, black here, I mean, you can't lose both rooks. If you capture this one, black takes back. If you take this one on f8, black takes back with that rook. So you can't lose both rooks. So a decent idea by the engine. Now, instead, in the game, Arjun here plays the move rook f to c8, sliding over, pressuring c5, and so on. But here, Magnus, he immediately finds the flaw with this move in this insane endgame. The move is bishop takes b7. Of course, from here, you attack both rooks on a8 and c8, and if you take the knight, this rook will fall on the a8 square. So from here, Arjun, he does take on c5. Rook takes c5, not finding the better idea of knight to c2, which is a little better according to Stockfish. Instead, rook takes c5, we have bishop takes a8, and then rook takes a5, winning the pawn and defending the knight on the a1 square. Now, let's slow down here. Let's do inventory. Both sides actually have about even material. The two minor pieces here, the bishops, the knight, and so on. The two rooks and the pawns are also even. Both sides having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pawns in this game. But the engine says that white is completely winning and simply eviscerating black. How is that possible? Well, the idea, after rook to d1, as Magnus played in the game, suddenly black is under some serious checkmating threats. What can black do? He goes f6, the Ben Feingold counterattack. They say never play f6, but here is a decent move, giving the king some loft on f7 and so on. But Magnus, bishop d5 hits the king, e6 blocks the attack, and bishop c4. And from here, the rook is going to fly into the d7 square. Black does not control it. And from there, white is just so active in this game. I mean, despite having completely even material, the better pieces here for white give him borderline a game-winning edge in this blitz game. How does Magnus always do this? I simply cannot wrap my head around it. It is simply insane. From here, Arjun, g5 is the idea. The point being, number one, you try to trap the bishop on the h6 square. Number two, you want to give the bishop on f5 some loft on g6 if it needs it later in the game. So a very creative idea. Here, Magnus, f3. Gaining some space. Now, black, bishop h3. This move right here, it turns out, is a massive mistake. And Magnus, as usual, finds the flaw with the move. Of course, the idea is black here, trying to control these light squares. Maybe, for example, you follow up with, say, knight c2, rook to a1, and so on, controlling the first rank. But here, Magnus, again, he finds the flaw with the move. That is the move g4. And look at this. The bishop is trapped. Literally. You can go king to f2, then g3, and then win the bishop. Arjun, what are you going to do? Arjun, king to f7, trying to trap this bishop. Magnus, rook d7, hits the king to e8, and then rook takes h7, winning the free pawn. That pawn on the h-file is so important in this game. Arjun, he fights back. Knight c2, threatening, for example, knight to e3, rook to a1, and so on. And that is a very serious threat here. All right, Magnus, king to f2, getting off the back rank. Rook to a1 comes all the same. And here, Magnus finds an absolutely insane-looking move. This is just so absurd. Bishop takes g5, giving up the bishop with the attack on the bishop on the h3 square. The temporary bishop sack. All right, Arjun, rook f1 check, hits the king g3. Now rook g1 hits the king takes h3, and finally f takes g5. And Arjun down to just 13, maybe even just 12 seconds left on the clock here. What is he going to do? We have rook g7 for Magnus, targeting g5. Arjun, knight to e3, trying to attack the bishop. Magnus, he sees this and plays the move bishop d3, sliding back with the bishop. We have knight d5, jumping up. Rook takes g5, and then king d7. Now king to h4. The problem here for Arjun, he's down 1, 2, 3 pawns. How did this happen? How did Magnus literally win 3 pawns in this game of the year? I don't know, but these pawns are a force to be reckoned with. All right, knight f4 is the idea by black. Rook to a5, sliding over, targeting a7 with the rook. King to f6, g5. The pawn march continues, hits the king. The king moves, king to e7. Now rook takes a7. Magnus is up 1, 2, 3, 4 pawns in this game. 5 versus 1. Good grief, this is brutal. Arjun, king d6, rook a4, hits the knight, e5, and now Magnus, the finishing blow, the cherry on the cake, the icing on the cupcake. Rook takes f4, sacrificing the rook. Shout out to Gotham Chess. And what is the idea? It is so simple. Here, after e takes, you have too many pawns. There is no way to stop the literal army of pawns here from white. White's plan, something like king to h5, h4, king to g6, h5, h6, and so on. And there's no way to stop the pawns. King h5 is the move. King d7, h4, king f8, king g6, king g8, h5, king to h8, h6. And again, these pawns are simply rolling down the board. Rook g2 is the move. b4, rook g1, b5. The other pawn advances down the board as well. Rook c1, king f5, targeting f4. Rook c5, check. King takes f4. Arjun Erigaisi, he fights on in this game despite being down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pawns and really having no chance. He fights on. Rook d5, g6, rook c5, b6, and finally here, in this position with 3.7 seconds left on the clock in this titled Tuesday Blitz game, which is probably the game of the year, let's be honest. Arjun, he resigns on the spot to Magnus and his diabolical, disrespectful, absurd 1a4 opening. Wow, what a game between Arjun Erigaisi and Magnus Carlsen, the GOAT, in this titled Tuesday Blitz game on November 21st, 2023. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. I certainly did enjoy making this video for you guys, so hope you enjoyed it. Smash that like button if you can. Comment down below. What did you think of this insane game? Was this the game of the year? Let me know your thoughts. And as always, guys, if you're trying to learn how to get better online chess, I do have an online chess community where I can show you how to gain 200 plus ELO in just 90 days, guaranteed. Check it out. Links above, and I'll see you in the next video.